Well, the WNBA wanted to be inclusive, and we couldn't be prouder. The ad we made actually may have worked, and we're going to be talking about that next on the ProZone. Welcome to the ProZone. I'm Matt Roberts. So, I guess my ad is working. Have you seen it? Let's take a second. Male basketball players, if you can't make it in the NBA, if you're staying in college getting no money and your eligibility is running out, hope is on the horizon for you. Join the WNBA because now men can play in the WNBA and they'll let you do it. Take advantage of Indiana Fever head coach who says,
I don't know that I would say that I'm educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I don't ever believe that exclusion is an answer.
Take advantage of the Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reed who says,
I come from a space of inclusion.
So biological men should be able to play as well in the WNBA. Learn from the Golden State Valkyries head coach who says,
sports is about belonging. It's about inclusivity. It's about allowing everyone to be their authentic self. So I'm all about women, little girls deserving to play, and that includes trans women.
So it doesn't matter your height, it doesn't matter your race, and it doesn't matter your gender. Join the WNBA. Take advantage of that $25 million every year that the NBA gives the league. Take advantage of the higher salaries because of players like Caitlin Clark. Take advantage of that new TV money that was piggybacked off the back of the NBA TV deal to ensure that the WNBA gets TV money too. Make your money now, men. Jump into the fray. Put on a wig if you have to.
I'm here.
Shave your legs if you must. But join the WNBA and you can be a pro and belong. I couldn't be prouder. I couldn't be prouder. We put the ad together. I didn't think it would get any traction. I didn't think it would do much of anything. I mean, just put it out there for fun, just a lighthearted comment, but right away, we had some reactions. Now, directly to the video, but it's maybe coincidental, but I'm going to go with it. There are men who say they are women, and they're declaring for the draft. Right away. It didn't take very long. First, you had NS Cantor Freedom, who officially made this announcement.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for. My team and I are prepared to ensure these guidelines are applied equally, consistently, and without exception. And I look forward to the WNBA honoring its stated principles. See you at training camp.
There you go. I mean, he met the requirements. The WNBA says that they're inclusive, that men who think they are women, men who identify as women, they can join the WNBA. So rock and roll, NS Canada Freedom, way to go, right? Sure, a former player, but he wants back in the game. Well, how about Royce White, who's a political candidate, but a former professional basketball player. And I believe he was a third-round draft pick. He stated that he's going to be entering the WNBA as well. He's going to enter the draft because he now identifies as a woman. What? Well, yeah, of course. That's exactly what the WNBA wants. You heard the commercial. They're all about inclusion. All right? They want everybody can join. As long as you believe you're a woman, you can join. I mean, and before that, you had Julia Tate Hart, who is from Monaco, professional transgender basketball player in France. Julia Tate Hart is a 6'3" basketball player. He identifies as a female, calls himself Julia. Julia averages 21 points and 20 rebounds per game in the WNBA, or in the Women's Basketball League in France. I'm sorry, in France. WNBA, the Women's Basketball, he'll kill it in the WNBA, but he averages 21 and 20. Those are record-breaking. Forget Caitlin Clark, forget Sophie Cunningham, forget Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, forget them all. These men are going to break massive records in the WNBA. And as entertaining as they may be, maybe people will start watching the WNBA. You know, they don't have to rely on the NBA to, pay for their TV deal. But she's from Monaco. So here, top player in the French second division league. So, awesome. Way to go. Well, now we're inclusive. The NBA rules are very clear. They state Article 13, player eligibility and WNBA draft. Section 1, player eligibility. Only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. Problem is, a lot of people can't define what a woman is when asked what a woman is. But in this case, if you identify as a woman, that's transgender. That qualifies, right? Dave Chappelle said it best in one of his routines.
Okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
There you go. I mean, that's pretty much what we're looking at. If you're going to allow a biological male to enter the WNBA, they're going to dominate, and anybody can do it. So, I mean, let's take a look at this. Just compare the G League. First off, let's look at college students. I do a lot of work with the college market, right? College students are making nil money right now in college. They're losing their eligibility soon, right? When they're done, when their eligibility is over, and the college just created the new terms of eligibility. You get 5 years, and that's it. The clock starts when you turn 19 or when you graduate from high school. That's it. So once your clock starts, you got 5 years. So you're 19 years old, plus 5, you're 24. You're at the peak of your physical conditioning, right? 24 years old, you're at that peak. And it's the ideal window. So if you're running out of money, you're no longer going to be in college, you no longer can get additional eligibility, and you can't get no money, hope is on the horizon. You can then say, hey, you know what? I am a woman, and I'm going to join or try to join the WNBA. Now, they can always turn you away, but now you have a lawsuit. You see what the WNBA's done? When you start playing games like this, you screw up your product. There's no gray area. There's a men's league and there's a women's league. There's no merging of the two, okay? Women should not play with men because men are way stronger than the women are. And biological men should not play with women. It's pretty simple. I mean, look at the G League in the NBA. The G League, your average player in the G League makes $45,000 a year. About 45 grand, right? Why wouldn't they declare for the draft in the WNBA and make, with the new collective bargaining agreement, $500,000? They can make bank. They could also be paid the max, which is like over $1 million, especially if they're really good. Bronny James, he can just step away and say, you know what? LeBron, he'll dominate at 40 some odd years old, but Bronny, he had 1 year in the NCAA where he averaged 4 points. I mean, he's terrible as a male player, but if he identifies as a female player, Bronny James could legitimately enter the WNBA. I mean, here's the other rub. What's to stop some crazy billionaire, okay, to say, we're going to create a league? And before I was talking about in Killing Caitlin Clark, episode 29, Killing Caitlin Clark part 2, I mentioned that what if somebody signed away Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham and a couple other big names and created a league like the Women's American Basketball Association to compete against the WNBA. They would take all their viewerships, they take most of their audience because you have better talented players. Well, what if another billionaire came in and said, you know what the hell with that? Let's keep Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham and everyone else there. We're just going to create a Women's American Basketball Association of all men who believe that they're women. Now you have a transgender league. It would be men's basketball. Well, biological men's basketball, right? So what's to stop them? I mean, let's be honest. In the WNBA, there's no biological test to determine if you're a male. There's no requirement to prove that you're taking hormone therapy. There's no requirement to be undergoing transitional surgery, implants, or your genital removal, your chopadigophomy, as Rush Limbaugh used to say. There's no rules for that. Okay, so if you don't have to meet those rules, and they're not going to test you biologically to see what your DNA is, then okay, cool. But if you want to make sure that the women are actual women and the men are actual men, maybe they should undergo a test. I mean, if you're not careful, okay. It's funny, years ago, South Park made a prescient episode about such a thing. Let's listen to this, because this could happen and is happening.
Now, this is the first year that a trans woman is in the competition. How do you feel about that?
Amazing. I feel honored to be a part of history. I have a lot of incredible trans friends who are athletes, and so we're all inspired. This woman's competing.
Uh-huh. And have you actually ever met Heather Swanson?
No, I've never competed against her before, no.
She's not exactly your average trans athlete.
Well, what is an average trans athlete? Honestly, I find that kind of bigoted, David.
Okay. Heather Swanson is actually joining us now. Miss Swanson, how does it feel to be competing today?
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman. Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to smash the other girls.
And is it correct you just started identifying as female 2 weeks ago?
I'm not here to talk about my transition. I'm here to kick some f***ing ass.
There you go. That literally could happen. I'm not even joking about this. It literally could happen. And what you have right now is happening because there's no rules, right? There are no rules to determine what a male or a female are. There's no biological rules. Again, there's X chromosomes, which are women, XY, which is male. That's it. XX, XY. That's it. There's no gray area. That's it, right? Settled science. So if you have a male who has XY chromosomes, the male shouldn't be able to play with females. It doesn't matter what kind of wig he wears, how long he grows his hair, how much makeup he puts on, whether he gets breast implants. The biology is male. And if you look at, there was a study done. I'm going to get to the study. So bear with me on the study, okay? I'm going to circle back to that because it applies to some other incidents as we start to get a little more serious as we go forward, okay? But this is where we are. This is what's actually happening in the WNBA, or could happen. The commissioner of the WNBA, Kathy Engelbert, sent out a memo saying that the WNBA will have a special task force made up of a team of team presidents and general managers to discuss transgender athletes in women's sports next week. This was back on August 8th, okay? So that's yesterday. She came out with this, right? Well, here's what she said. Quote, "We recognize that this is a complex and nuanced topic, and we will continue to have important conversations with all of you and the Players Association in the weeks and months ahead." That's Engelbert from the WNBA. She's the commissioner of WNBA. We also, this is in her memo, we also plan to convene additional discussions and offer listening sessions for any team leaders who would like to participate. Your perspectives and feedback are invaluable, and I appreciate those who have already reached out to share their thoughts. Okay? How is this complex and nuanced? Either you're a male or you're a female. They're fully inclusive. Now there's nuance? How is there nuance? Are you going to establish rules? Let's continue a little bit further, and we're going to get there. We're going to circle back to this. The Women's National Basketball Players Association released a statement on social media on Friday that emphasized diversity and inclusion while saying the group will not be used as political pawns. Quote, "We embrace justice, equality, diversity, and inclusion." Cool. The Players Union said, "Those are the values that unite this union and allow it to protect women's sports while creating transformational change. Hate, abuse, and demonization of any person or group of people, including transgender people, only fuel fear, division, and harm. We will continue to have hard conversations, but we will not be used as political pawns." No one's using you as a political pawn. Nobody is. No one is attacking or hating transgender people. Fine. If you're transgender, you're transgender. That's awesome. But we do want to protect, and that's something that's missing from that entire, from the Women's Basketball Association Players Association, from that statement. The one thing missing is protecting the women in the WNBA, the W in WNBA. You're not going to have a WNBA without the W. And they're not protecting the women. They don't even mention it. They just talk about transgender groups and hate, and we're not going to be used as political pawns, and equality, diversity and inclusion and justice. But they don't say anything about, hey, what about the women who have to play against these biological males? I mean, look, let's be honest. If you ask some people, they're going to say there's already a biological male playing in the WNBA and had for years. If you look at Brittany Griner, you don't know. Brittany Griner, have you ever seen her with her shirt off? She has just regular chest, not a woman, no surgery, no scars for the double mastectomy. None of that. The voice is deep as hell, built like a guy.
It really don't make a difference if you say he or she to me. Like when I'm out in public, like my teammates sometimes will get mad if somebody call me a he, but I'm just like, I don't care. Like, or they'll ask me, "You really a girl?" Nah, I'm lying.
You gotta wonder, is Brittany Griner a biological male playing among biological females? And the bottom line is that biological males should never play against biological females because they're very, very different. Again, we're going to get to more about this in a bit. We're almost there. But the fact of the matter is that you're not protecting women. There's nothing in this, in any conversation about protecting women. They're more concerned about protecting the transgender person, the guy who thinks he's a woman, than they are protecting the women. Women work entirely too hard to develop a space where they can succeed. Do you understand the stuff that women have to go through in sports? It's a male-dominated industry, okay? Dominated by men, straight out. And they make the money. They work their asses off, as do women. But women have to work that much harder because people don't watch them as much as they watch the men. It's not a marketable industry. It's just not. Women's sports are great. I've been filming women's sports for decades. And I actually really enjoy women's sports because those young ladies, they play hard. They play really hard. And they take a lot of abuse. And they don't stay down on the field when they get hit. You gotta watch a girl playing field hockey and she gets nailed with the ball, she'll go down for a second, but then she'll walk off. She'll either shake it off and go back to playing, or she'll walk off the field, bat a play, and then she'll come back in. Won't take very long because they don't want to be seen as weaker. Okay, because there's certain guys out there that'll see a young woman and they'll go, "Oh, look at the poor thing. She can't play. No, she's tough, okay? And they have to be even tougher because of the clowns out there that question their toughness. But they're tough against other women. If you put a male into the mix, it's going to screw everything up. And we'll be hitting that shortly, okay? So what do? What do you do with these? They're going to look at options, right? The nuance, she said. What did she say? Well, she called it nuanced, right? There's a lot of things to consider, which is going to discuss with the other owners and team managers and presidents, right? Well, if you look at the Women's Tennis Association, after the Olympics, they actually implemented a new rule. Basically, they're requiring genetic testing of the players to prove that they're actually women. Done. There you go. That's it. The precedent's set, WNBA. If the International Tennis Association is saying, you know what, we got to test it out because, I don't know, we can't let our league be infiltrated by men who think they're women who will beat the hell out of our players and destroy the integrity of the sport and undo all of the hard work that our young women do. If they're saying that, maybe it's time you went, maybe. So here's Coco Gauff, okay, tennis player. They asked her a question about the new genetic sex texting, the new sex testing policy in Women's Tennis Association. Here is what she had to say.
Hi, Coco. The WTA recently said it's going to give gender tests to the players on tour. What's your impression of that? What do you feel about it? And what did the WTA do to prepare you guys for what's to come on that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I guess with that, I mean, I know it's been something that's been talked about a while, but I've talked to a couple other players and a lot of them didn't find out until the press release. So I do think that's something that could have been more transparent amongst like players across the tour. As far as that, I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. I do think that this kind of conversation has created a lot of animosity towards the trans community, which I'm not really a big fan of, but I also understand the need to, I guess, the biological difference and the need to protect that and preserve that. So I think it's a conversation that is very nuanced. And it creates clauses, or I need to have a nuanced answer. So, yes, I guess kind of agree with trying to protect the fairness in women's sports, but I also do not like the attack that it is creating people who don't really care but just want to use this as a reason to attack the trans community. So I'm not really a big fan of that either. So,
do you see how they're dancing all over the place? This is where we are with society, okay? There's people out there, they're so afraid that they may offend somebody that they will dance all over. They will crap on their profession, all to say that, well, I'm not offending any trans women. You're not offending anybody. You're preserving your sport. It's very simple. You can't have it both ways. I want to preserve our sport and protect it, but I don't want to cause hate against trans. No one is hating. Well, there's some idiots out there that do, okay? There's always the idiots out there that do, but no one's hating trans in the overall. No, we don't care if they're trans. If you're trans, roll on with yourself. If you're a dude who thinks you're a woman, if you're a guy who thinks you're a girl, or a girl who thinks you're a guy, cool, rock and roll, all right? I don't care. But don't use it to play against biological females, especially to gain an advantage. All right, there's players out there that do that. These guys can't play, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen because it's already been happening. They're going to try to play against women because they couldn't make it. I'll give you, here, I'm going to fast forward just a bit, and then we're going to jump back. I'm going to give you, no, I'll tell you what, I'm going to stay on par. I'm going to stay on track here. I want to go to our next bit here. So here's the thing. She says this, and she's all over the place. Well, you have your seasoned veterans who They don't have any tolerance for this crap, okay? Let's look at Martina Navratilova, the great Martina Navratilova, openly gay tennis player, legend. I watched her growing up. She was a monster, fantastic. Yeah, sure, she was a lesbian back then. It was even more taboo in the 80s, but we didn't care. She came out later on when it was more, apropos to come out, right? But she's awesome. I can't say enough great things about Martina. She was asked about the ruling by the Supreme Court that allows the states to decide whether biological males can play with biological females. Okay, it shouldn't even be a question because the majority of the people are like, yeah, this is kind of crappy. I don't like it. But here's what Martina had to say.
I kind of did a 180. I was one of those on the left, all inclusive. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. It cannot work this way. So here we are. And countries that have been way ahead of the curve, so to speak, on the transgender issue and healthcare and everything else, they've put on the brakes in many countries now, right? On puberty blockers, on surgery, certainly before kids are adults, etc. And I think UK is catching up to that, and US is just behind. So I think this Supreme Court decision is momentous. I think it'll ripple down not just to sports, but to many spaces and many other countries. So I welcomed it obviously with open arms. So kudos to the women that got this done.
There you go. And she's talking about the people who argue, like Riley Gaines and others who have been arguing for years about this, okay? They've been arguing to keep the sports pure, to keep men, biological men, I gotta emphasize that, biological men out of women's sports. Okay? A biological man is very, very different. They have a bigger muscle mass. They have a larger bone density. They have a bigger biological structure. They're more aggressive. And they have, when they go through puberty, we're looking at 10 times the testosterone of a regular woman. Now, if you're a woman in a sport and you use steroids, which is male hormones, okay, and you inject yourself with steroids, that's illegal. And if that's illegal, then you can get banned or fined or penalized. But naturally, a transgender female has 10 times the testosterone, which is above the legal limit for women in those sports. So you can't inject yourself with it, but you can have it in your body and then inject yourself with female hormones that don't make much of a difference because it's not going to undo, no matter how much you put in there, it's not going to undo the raw biological testosterone that's in your body. It's not going to do it, okay? She's right. And she said Europe is ahead of the United States. It's funny. I don't like to make this correlation, but when I was listening to that bite, I thought, Europe was ahead of, and Great Britain was ahead of the United States in something else too that was very controversial, that damaged a group of people, and that was slavery. I'm not comparing this to slavery. I am not doing that. What I'm saying is they're, for some reason, ahead of the game over the United States. The United States, they outlawed slavery much later than the European countries and the rest of the world did. I mean, there's still countries that have slavery, but we're talking about, Europe and the Western countries, okay? They outlawed it way after them. Now here in the United States, it's always backwards, always behind for some reason. And it's because you have these people who love to parrot a cause, and they complain and they talk about equality and inclusion, and she said it herself. So she said, I was on the left, but I did a full 180. Because now, we talk all that inclusion, but when you get down to it, you can't have biological males playing against biological females. You can't. You just can't do it. I mean, here's an example. Serena Williams was on the David Letterman show years ago, before he went off the air, okay? And he broached the subject with her and asked her, there's a Andy Murray, who was a male tennis player, there's talk about, well, maybe she should play him and it could be a challenge. This is what Serena Williams had to say.
Actually, it's funny because Andy Murray, he was been joking about myself and him playing a match, and I'm like, Andy, seriously, like, are you kidding me? Because for me, tennis and men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate sports. So I'm like, if I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because no, it's true. It's true. It's a completely. It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster, and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game, and I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be embarrassed. I would not do the tour. I wouldn't do Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it. Yeah. I'm not gonna let you kill me.
See, the great Serena Williams, tennis legend. She knows. She doesn't want to get embarrassed out there. That's why other colleges started boycotting San Jose State University for that reason. Because San Jose State University has a transgender female, a guy who thinks he's a woman, okay, a biological male on the team. And they're forfeiting their matches, their volleyball matches. Why are they forfeiting them? Because it's unfair advantage. The guy's going to kill them when he plays, and there's no way they're going to beat this guy. All right? I want to call him a guy. I don't care what he identifies as. Biology says he's a guy. So to differentiate the two, put it that way. Think about it that way. The guy is playing girls. Okay? That's the only way to look at it. It's the only way. You can't say, oh, the woman's playing women. No, it's a guy playing girls. It's the only way to look at it to make it make sense. Okay? Here's a news report on that one. Let's hear what they had to say.
Controversy concerning the San Jose State University women's volleyball team. 3 opposing colleges have now forfeited their matches against the Spartans over concerns about a transgender player. KTVU's Jesse Gary live tonight at San Jose State University. Jesse, good evening to you.
Mike, good evening again to you. And all of this swirling after a really great start to the season, the kind of start that most coaches would dream of. Team hasn't lost yet. However, there are questions circling around the team because of one player, one Spartan, and her alleged identification as transgender.
There's a spike. San Jose State keeping it alive. That ball's
look at that spike.
Spartan volleyball, undefeated so far and under scrutiny.
And no wonder they're undefeated.
After a teammate reported redshirt junior Blair Fleming is transgender.
A school which had never started a season 7-0 is now 7-0. It raised some eyebrows.
It also sparked a slew of forfeitures. Wyoming is the latest school to decline to compete against SJSU. That was preceded by Southern Utah and Boise State Saturday. The schools didn't give a reason. But last week, Idaho's Republican governor signed an executive order barring Boise State from playing against trans athletes. We need to ensure player safety for all of our female athletes and continue the fight for fairness, he posted Friday on the X platform.
See? So that's the thing. Women are waking up to it. They work too hard for their space. Women work entirely too hard to be dominant, strong, successful in their space. For a guy, a biological male, to come in and upset everything. I mean, San Jose State never started a season 7-0. They had a losing record. Now they're 7-0. Well, of course they do. Of course they do, and I'll explain to you why. Okay, there is a professor of public interest law emeritus at George Washington University, John Bonsav, who did a study. Okay, and in his study, he's fighting against biological males playing biological females, more specifically in volleyball, because it's part of a lawsuit. Okay, there's a lawsuit. I'm going to show you what's leading to this lawsuit after this, but listen to what he has to say. The law professor both played and coached volleyball at George Washington University. Okay, he's documented all these issues of what can come up. And the danger now clearly documented in many different contact sports. MMA, boxing, hockey, rugby. Oh, we're going to talk about boxing in a second. Okay, stick with me on that one. Here's some of the reasons why the huge disparities in physical abilities between male and female athletes create so much risk of physical injury to girls and women, even in non-violent, non-contact sports, such as volleyball. Ready? Now, I film volleyball, okay? I film volleyball with my company. And yeah, it's a clear difference between men and women. But let's hear this out. The official height of the net in female volleyball competition is a full 7.5 inches lower therefore much easier to spike over for males than it is for females, because men can jump higher and have a longer reach and have more power. Also, male volleyball players are on average about 8 inches taller, 11% taller than female players, and can jump over 6 inches higher, just like I said. So they can jump 6 inches higher, but they're also 8 inches taller. So that's what, 14 inches? That's over a foot over the 7.5 inches shorter net. So imagine that. Okay, imagine that. How high a guy is going to get for the spike. In addition, it says, thus they can spike the ball from over a foot higher, see, than the average female, and do so on a net which provides the girls and women with, on the other side, which much less protection. Males like that aren't going to spike it into the net that much. There's not going to be anything in their way, okay? It's going to be a very clear shot looking down on these young ladies. In addition, male volleyball players can spike the ball much harder and faster. Get this, the record for male volleyball players is 82 miles per hour, 82 on a spike, whereas the corresponding record for females is only 64. So males hit the volleyball at the opponents almost 30% faster. An 82 mile an hour volleyball getting served at your daughter's face. Think about that. Since the amount of kinetic energy possessed by a moving ball is proportional to the square of its velocity, a ball hit by a top male volleyball player can have more than 60% more knockdown and injury-inflicting energy than one hit by a top female player. It's pretty straightforward. That's what it is. You're changing the game because you're allowing a biological male to play against women. Now, here is like, what are the odds of that? Well, let me show you this clip here. This is from, I don't know what school this is, okay? But this is a trans athlete, a biological male athlete, okay, who served against a female. Let's watch this. He's going to be circled at the bottom of the screen.
A trans athlete hit her in the head with the ball, which left her unconscious for 30 seconds and resulted in some serious injuries. She now has brain damage and paralysis on the right side of her brain, which has also apparently left walking very difficult for her.
And he knocked her straight out. Knocked her out. Hit her right in the head, knocked her out. And she now has brain damage and paralysis on the left side of her head. She has difficulty walking as a result. I mean, you think about it. You're having an 82 mile an hour hard inflated volleyball slammed by a guy with 60% more velocity, all right? 60% more power, I should say, per square foot, into the woman's face. That shouldn't happen in volleyball. You shouldn't be able to knock somebody out like that. But that's not the only place where that happens, okay? So in Foxborough, Mass, okay, the high school field hockey game, all right, a male, biological male, is playing against females, right, in field hockey, which should never happen. I film so much field hockey, and I just got done talking about how tough they are as players, okay? I have seen them hit in the face. I've seen them hit in the legs, arms, hands, whatever, okay? And I've seen them hit in the head. And they go down a little bit, but they shake it off. It's not incapacitating, all right? Let's watch this clip here.
This is the shot from a male Swampscott field hockey player that sent a Dighton Rehoboth girl to the hospital. It happened last week during the first round of the MIAA Division III playoffs. The injured girl could be heard screaming in pain after the ball came off the boy's stick and hit her in the face. Kelsey Bain.
No, they didn't play the sound. She's sitting there screaming in pain, and her teammates who are back in the goal, they're just like, they're sickened. They had to turn away. She lost her teeth. They knocked a bunch of her teeth out. Okay, let's see what else I have to say about her.
Dighton Rehoboth's team captains told the MIAA in a letter that allowing boys to play on girls' teams under the Equal Rights Amendment is putting the girls in danger. She wrote, "We all witnessed the substantial damage that a male has the ability to cause against a female during a game. How much longer does the MIAA plan to use girls as statistical data points before they realize that boys do not belong in girls' sports?"
That pretty much says it all. It says what it needs. How long? I mean, when you have a young woman who gets hit in the face and knocks her teeth out, and she has to go get surgery to replace, and broke her, I think she broke her jaw too. That's a guy. Do you know the power behind, I mean, look, I know there's one player who I think, well, there's a lot of them, but there's one specific player who I think incredibly highly of. Okay, a field hockey player named Riley Heck. Riley Heck is dynamo, fantastic. She's now on Team USA, women's field hockey team, right? Riley Heck has a great shot on goal. I mean, this is like, she's like a Michael Jordan to me when it comes to field hockey. I've never been really impressed by high school field hockey players. Or hockey players in general. I'm not really super impressed by them. This one here, go watch her all day, every day. I mean, I saw her I saw her score 6 goals in a row by herself in a game one time, and I was filming that game. Totally impressive, and she's a great person. She's a great person. Got a great family. I got to know them, but my impression that I'm sticking with is her playmaking. I mean, she's been player of the year in college. She played for UNC, North Carolina. They've won state championships, and she's led them to that. This girl is a phenomenal player, phenomenal, and her killer shot is not even a fraction of the power that a male shot would have. Now, could you imagine having someone like that playing on a team against a biological male who's taller, bigger, stronger, deeper, denser, more dense bones, and bigger muscle mass, right? Filled with testosterone. Could you imagine that? No, you couldn't imagine that, because he would destroy and ruin her career. Okay? So you have to preserve the sport. You have to, for the sake of the women. I can't emphasize this enough. If you have a problem with what I'm saying, I don't care. I don't care. Consider what you're talking about. You want, for the sake of what? Like these young ladies saying data points, for the sake of saying that you're inclusive, for the sake of saying, well, you shouldn't discriminate. You're not. You're discriminating by having a biological male play against women. You're discriminating against those women who worked so hard to earn that place and earn that achievement in that sport. They work from youth often to get there, okay? I mean, let's take a look at Riley Gaines, all right? There is a player named Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas was originally William Thomas, right? William Thomas, who played for 3 years in college, okay, for University of Pennsylvania. And in the 3 years in college, his national rankings were, by event, for the 2018-2019 seasons, 554th in the 200-yard freestyle, 65th in the 500-yard freestyle, and 32nd in the 1,650-yard freestyle. So he sucked. Against males, he sucked, right? Then what happens? William Thomas suddenly becomes Leah Thomas, grows his hair longer, no surgery, no hormone therapy that I'm aware of, right? Decides, I'm a female. I am now going to compete with the women at University of Pennsylvania, who then said, University of Pennsylvania said, yeah, sure, we have to be inclusive, so we're going to let him play against these women, swim against these women. Well, that's an unfair advantage. So what happens? So they're having national championships, right? So here we go. National championships. Leah/William Thomas in the 500-meter freestyle versus the women. Let's just watch how the race ends with Leah Thomas. Here we go. It's coming right here. Watch. Look at the overhead shot. Watch.
Went right up there against that lane line.
There's Thomas right there. There's Thomas. Look how far ahead. Like almost two body lengths ahead.
Thomas pulling away
Look.
over the final
Look at
150 meters. Had to work for it. She was pushed over the first 350 meters. Thomas wins the NCAA championship. Ended up very close for second, with Wyatt taking it ahead of a late charge from Erica Sullivan.
Destroys the women. All these women, all these other lanes worked their entire lives to win, to earn the spot to be in the national championship. Okay? And now they're what? They realize that going into their senior year or whatever, into the competition, that a biological male is going to be allowed to swim with them. How are we going to beat that? He didn't win by as much as he probably could have because he's terrible, a swimmer. But Leah Thompson, she actually destroyed these women and ruined their chances to get a recognition to win the championship. Ruined it. I mean, how right is that? All right. So then he goes into the 200 meter. Now he does better in the longer events than the shorter events, as per his college career, pre-female college career, just a year ago, just a few months ago when he was a male. All right. Let's watch this one. This is the 200 meter freestyle. Okay.
What a races is going to be coming home in the last 25. Stanford's Taylor Ruck has twice been an NCAA runner-up individually. Ruck has led the entire way.
Thomas is in 5.
200-yard freestyle. It's a wire-to-wire win for Taylor Ruck. Isabel Ivey takes second, and Kelly Pash third. Leah Thomas into fifth.
Fifth place, okay? Tied with Riley Gaines, all right? Now, what does that tell you? It tells you one of two things. It's like, well, why didn't he beat them by more if it's a guy? Because he's terrible as a swimmer, and he's better in longer distances. He won the 500 meter without a problem, but he's so bad, and that's the way it's a lose-lose. It's like if I went to a bar, okay? I'm 6'4", right? Big dude, former Division I football player. If I walk into a bar and a smaller guy picks a fight with me and I beat the hell out of him, I'm a bully. But if I let him get punches in on me, then I'm a wuss. It's a lose-lose for me. That's why you just kind of avoid those guys, those little Napoleonic guys who try to start a fight. You avoid them because it's a lose-lose. In this case, it's a lose-lose. You're a biological male. If you beat a woman, then of course you're going to beat them because you're a guy. If you lose to a woman, then you suck and you're a pussy because you couldn't beat a woman, even though you have 10 times the testosterone in your body than a woman does. All right? You're a fully grown adult male, fully intact adult male. And he tied with Riley Gaines. And what happened at the end of the match, which was bullshit, was they went out there to give them the 5th place trophies. And Riley Gaines tells the story, and she said, I'm not going to replay the whole thing because she's talked about it a lot. You can find it online. But she basically said that we went to go take the picture, and UPenn said, okay, well, the photo we take with the trophy, we want Leah Thomas to hold that because of the optics of it. We'll mail you your trophy, but the trophy has to go to Leah Thomas. Why? And then down the road later, after all that, there was a lot of blowback. And what happens? In July of 2025, the University of Pennsylvania modified or removed the school swimming records set by transgender swimmer Leah Thomas. And then they agreed to send personalized apology letters to female swimmers who expressed a competitive disadvantage or experienced a competitive disadvantage, and to restore individual Division I records and titles to female athletes who placed behind Thomas. The damage is freaking done. You can apologize all you want for your stupid decision, but these women have one opportunity, one chance to win a championship, right? They work since they're 4 years old. I remember Riley Gaines talking about that. Since 4, she's been swimming to try to be a success, yes? And then she gets up there, has her chance to win, and whoever it is, right, they can't win, the person in the 500 meter, for example, because Leah Thomas, a biological male, is allowed to beat them. So that one moment, to succeed, that one moment to really enjoy and revel in your victory has been snatched from you. You know what it's like? It's like COVID. Oh, COVID just pissed me off. The overblow of COVID. I'm going to talk about that in my next show, episode 31, okay? But the COVID overreaction, that scamdemic, that bunch of bullshit, that pissed me off so much because of what I saw it do to young people in school. You have one chance, especially seniors, one chance to have a prom, one chance to have graduation, one chance to have your senior trip, one chance to do all that stuff. And you lost it all because of a glorified head cold. That is similar to what happened with the transgenders in sports, okay? You're taking away that one moment from those women and you're giving it to somebody else. And now you're going to say, well, we're going to apologize and we're going to restore your records. The damage is done, man. Oh, hey, kids, want to see a video of your mom winning the championship game? Yeah, Mom. Oh, well, Mom, I thought you won. Well, no, I didn't win. This guy won. But I have this letter from the college that says, oh, we're sorry. And yeah, you actually did win. So we're going to give you your trophy now. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous what they're doing. And the thing is, precedent is set. WNBA, University of Penn acknowledges a transgender female, a guy who thinks he's a woman, that doesn't count anymore. He should not be allowed in the record books in any way, shape, or form. WNBA, think about that. You want all your records broken by biological males? Because that's what's going to friggin' happen. And that's what's going to happen. And on top of that, the impropriety of having a biological male, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind on this one. This one makes me insane. If you're going to say, well, they could at least compete, and you're going to hold the flag, plant your flag on that one. But you're not going to plant your flag on this point here, that they are having a biological male undress in the locker room and use the showers with biological females. A guy with his junk hanging out, a fully intact male with his twig and berries, right? Right there, having to undress, being forced to undress. Your daughter's being forced to undress in front of him for fear of what? Hurting his feelings or not being inclusive? Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, you got to be kidding me to allow that to happen. Imagine your daughter. Think about it. Remove yourself. If you're politically on that side, remove yourself from that just for a second. Be a parent, okay? Be a parent and go, imagine your little girl who you've watched and you've raised and you've nurtured for 18 years of her life. And she goes to college, or even worse, in high school. And the school says transgender females are allowed to use a locker room. So if he's a biological male, ladies, you can't say anything because you're going to hurt her feelings. And then she's in there and she's vulnerable and undressed. And here comes this guy, fully intact male, takes off his swimsuit or his gym clothes, and he's just hanging out right in front of him. But worse, it's disgusting because your daughter's forced to be in this embarrassing and uncomfortable situation. I mean, are you kidding me with this? There's people out there that Target had a boycott years ago because there was like, oh, transgender females can use the women's room. No. The Planet Fitness has that issue too. They say, we're a judgment-free zone. Yeah, but you're talking about assault. Look, if I tomorrow said, I'm a female, I identify as female, and I'm going to walk into a locker room and I'm going to undress in front of the women, right? That's completely allowed. Right? But if I go in there and I'm still a biological male, I just said the words, I identify as a woman. If I go in there as a male who didn't say those words, declare that I identify as a female, and I undress in front of women or stand there while women are undressing and watch them, that's assault. That's sexual assault. You are a sexual predator. And then you're put on the sexual predators list, which follows you for your entire life. Are you saying that transgender females are sexual predators? No. What I'm saying is biological males have the same standard. Biological males should not be allowed in locker rooms or bathrooms or anything with women. These women should not be forced to dress or undress that way in front of a biological male. Hell, man, there was a story in, what school was that? Hold on a second. University of Wyoming, the sorority Kappa Kappa Gamma. They had an incident. This was back in, what year was this? 2023, okay? They had a transgender female who was allowed to join their sorority. So live in a sorority house with women, biological women. A biological male is allowed to live in a house with biological women, okay? There's an allegation against this person. The person's name was Artemis Langford, the first transgender member of the University of Wyoming chapter of the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority, okay? 6 sorority sisters in that sorority chapter are suing the sorority, its housing organization, as well as the transgender member Artemis Langford for breaking the sorority's rules of conduct. There were numerous claims against Langford, and they allege that Langford had an erection while watching one of the sorority sisters change her shirt through his tights. You can see her tights. You can see his erection. And they are, asking the U.S. District Court to fight this whole thing, right? They asked that. Well, here's the update on that case. August 28th of 2023, a transgender sorority member, this is Newsweek, a transgender sorority member accused of acting inappropriately towards other female members recently scored a legal victory. On Friday, a federal judge in Wyoming dismissed a lawsuit that was brought by members of Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority to the University of Wyoming attempting to have a transgender woman removed from the Greek life organization. The dismissal by the judge comes shortly after other members of the sorority arguing against the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority that the transgender member identified as Artemis Langford, saying her membership should be voided over her gender. In March, members of the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority filed the lawsuit and Langford against the organization and Langford, saying Langford is a man. And the Kappa Kappa Gamma limits, quote, Kappa Kappa Gamma limits membership to women only under the sorority's bylaws. Every new member must be a woman. Is this sounding familiar yet? WNBA rules, maybe? A woman is an adult human female. An adult human male is not a woman, no matter how he chooses to describe himself. WNBA, there we go. Over the past, now wait, hold on. So the judge dismisses the case. And in a statement, a lawyer for Langford responded saying, quote, "We are elated that the court saw the allegations against Ms. Langford our way, and unsubstantiated and unbefitting of federal court. As Ms. Langford outlined in her motion to dismiss, the allegations against her were largely unrelated to any legal claims the plaintiffs raised." A lawyer for the members of the sorority who filed the lawsuit told Newsweek, quote, "The court's opinion reflects an idea that the plaintiffs cannot agree with. Women's rights do mean something. Women have a biological reality that deserves to be protected and recognized, and we will continue to fight for that right, just as women suffragists for decades have been told that their bodies, opinions, and safety doesn't matter." The court stated it would not define what a woman is. The fundamental issue has remained undecided. And there's the rub. The court said it would not define what a woman is. Therefore, the guy who believes he's a woman is allowed to stay there and possibly ogle women who are getting undressed in front of him. And those women have to be forced to live with a biological male. Hi, WNBA. Precedent is set here. I mean, if I am the two males who are wanting to join, two biological males who now say that they're females and want to join the WNBA, and you say no, then I'm going to sue you for discrimination because you claim to be inclusive and I meet the definition of a woman. Just saying. But if you decide to define what a woman is with your little board meeting you're having, now you've set up a catch-22 because now transgender women, biological males can no longer play in the WNBA, and they're going to sue you for discrimination and violation of their rights. WNBA, you're screwed. All you had to do when Sophie Cunningham came up and said that she doesn't want biological males to play against females, all you had to do is let her say what she had to say and say, we stand by our players, period. Make it very clear. But you couldn't do that. Your coaches, your owners, they had to open their mouths, they had to make their comments and defend the inclusivity and inclusion in the WNBA. And now it's snowballed. Now the veil is lifted. Now people are seeing, see what you've done as an organization. I mean, you suck as a rule as it is. I mean, no matter how hard these young ladies play, okay, you still suck as an organization. I mean, there's more stuff coming. I'm talking, WNBA is all over the news, which is great press, but it's bad press, okay? It's a thug game. So I'm going to be talking more about that with what's going on and the abuse of these players. I mean, again, watch Killing Caitlin Clark parts 1 and 2, and there'll be more coming, okay? But you're destroying the brand. Once you inject politics into the brand, you ruin the brand. I have a hot zone coming up about Caitlin Clark, but I'm going to touch on it here. Caitlin Clark, for example, they asked her about the topic, about males and women's sports. And she said, I have no comment on this. I'm not going to get into it. And people are like, oh, she's a coward. No. Caitlin Clark is not a coward. She's playing the business game. She sells sneakers, okay? She sells millions of dollars in sneakers, and she's got a very lucrative contract with Nike, right? If she says something, that might piss off half of the audience, because there are the transgender community, which is a very small percentage, but then there's the one side of the political aisle, which is about half the country. And about half those people, they are all about the transgenders. They're good. Well, not all of them, but enough of them, the vocal ones are, okay? There's others that behind the scenes that don't say that. So if she pisses them off, well, I'm going to give you the quote from Michael Jordan. He was quoted as saying, I don't know if it's paraphrased or quoted, but I haven't seen it officially in print by him or heard him say it, but he was quoted as saying, they say, why don't you get involved with politics and support a candidate? He said, because Republicans buy sneakers too. And Caitlin Clark's playing the Michael Jordan game. All right. So if at Cunningham, she's selling sneakers too. And because she spoke out, she sold out. They sold out of all her sneakers right away in record time. Okay. So cool. So I don't think, I think what Caitlin's making is yes, you don't want to piss off Nike because they're the ones that are cutting your checks. All right. You don't want to piss off all these other brands, but the tide is flipping and people are like, yeah, we don't really want to have biological men in women's sports. And if anything, you got to at least defend your sport. But she's defending it by her silence. She doesn't want to say a word. And I kind of get it because it's a business thing. And she's a larger brand. I think I keep in mind, add to that. If Caitlin Clark opens her mouth, the attacks on Clark would be relentless, more so than they are now. And she really doesn't want to end her career by being hurt. She's already been injured 2 seasons now because of these thugs that are out there beating the hell out of her, these women who just flagrantly fouling her all the time. So you have to keep the sports safe. Okay, you have to protect the women. The bottom line is not to discriminate against a transgender female, a guy who thinks he's a woman. The point is to preserve the women's sports as they are. Okay? It's like if a man said, I had a funny joke when I was in Disney World. I went up to them. They were doing this Darth Vader Star Wars lightsaber training back before they built Star Wars Land in Hollywood Studios. And I walked up to a Disney cast member and said, I want to take part. And they said, well, it's only for children. And I said, oh, well, I identify as an 8-year-old boy. I'm a trans junior. Being funny. They didn't find it funny, but it's pretty funny. I mean, what if that's the case? What if that's next? What if someone says, I identify as a young person. I identify as 8 years old. I want to go play youth sports as a 6'4" former Division I college player. I I just want to go out there and beat the hell out of kids. Just run and score at will. I mean, there's a slippery slope to that. Oh, that's ridiculous. No, because your transgenderism is, by definition, they call it gender dysphoria. So it's a psychological issue. It's got a scientific term, gender dysphoria. You're confused. So if it's a psychological issue, well, psychologically, I think I'm 8. That's the problem. It's a little. I mean, it's extreme, but it could eventually happen. But more and more things are flipping where it's not going to. So the WNBA is in a position, and they have to fix that. And when you have a male playing against any female, dangerous things happen. That's the problem. And now you have 2 gentlemen who suddenly came out and said, I am a female. I mean, they're biological males. They've been biologically male for their entire lives. They've played professional sports at a high level as biological males, but now they decided, because they want to play in the WNBA, that they are biological females, right? They are females. According to them, they're females. Not biological, they're just females. And now the WNBA is in a position. What are they going to do? I think I have a feeling I know what they're going to do, but they're going to have a very hard time doing it. Because there's one or two things that can happen. Either A, you let them play, or B, you redefine what a woman is in your league and you don't let them play. And either way, they're screwed. Like I said before, they're going to get sued by those guys those young ladies now, the guys who believe they're women, they'll get sued by them. And if they aren't sued by them, the other way, they'll get sued by the transgender community and the civil rights activists. WNBA screwed itself big time. And I'm kind of here to watch it. So we'll keep tabs on this. This is a long one, but I've been kind of putting this together for a while. And there's so much news, but I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. So where do you stand on it? Are you pissed off at me? I don't care. This is where I stand. I'll die on this hill. Okay? Women's sports must be preserved at all costs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Biological women should play against other biological women. No biological men. Period. These young women work entirely too hard. I have filmed sports for decades, and I've seen the difference between men's sports and women's sports, especially men's soccer, women's soccer. I've seen it, right? Women's sports are awesome. Those young ladies work their asses off, and they deserve to have an organization that they've nurtured, they've trained for, and they've developed over decades, and a lot of them over their whole lives. They deserve to have that organization for themselves, not tarnished by a man who believes he's a woman. Curious to hear your comments? Thank you for watching. I'll be back with the next episode. We're going to be talking probably about COVID and what it did to high school sports and college sports. Until next time, I'm Matt Roberts. Thank you for watching the ProZone. Know your goal.